Well, hello everyone and welcome to Wednesday's Reptile News. Now before we get started today, I just want to tell everybody to hit that subscribe button down there because you don't want to miss any of the good information. Now unfortunately yesterday, I thought we were done talking about this python hunt in Florida, but I could not have been more wrong. That's never happened before. I saw a news story pop up this morning that I actually almost just ignored, but then I caught a little excerpt from it and I just had to read it, and now I have to talk about it because as the Times reports, I mean right there they said that one of the goals for the Python Challenge in Florida was to eradicate the species from the state. And I don't know if you remember yesterday, but the story we talked about yesterday said that eradication was not one of the goals in this whole Python challenge. Now apparently as more and more numbers come in, more and more very interesting numbers, the whole story just gets even more interesting. Now the state of Florida is estimated to make about $35,000 in entry fees and whatnot for the Python challenge, whereas their prize cost is only sitting at about $8,000 when that's finally determined February 16th, which in my eyes means a huge profit margin for Florida. So one thing I need to ask, is this to eradicate the species? Is this to understand their movements? Or is this for profit? Now another thing very interesting that I read is a University of Florida researcher, which if you remember there's a University of Florida researcher that we talked about yesterday that said the goals were met and everything. Well, in this story, a particular University of Florida researcher who was also a sponsor of the hunt had a lot to say about it. Now before we go into that, a sponsor of the hunt, you really have to think about it. I don't know if this is the same University of Florida researcher or if it's a completely different one, but let that ferment in your mind for a little bit. Now of course they do say the shenanigans and the drunkenness was just ridiculous, and people taking shots at native wildlife that they were not supposed to be, and it just seems like more and more people are thinking this was just a huge mess. But then at the same time, last night I saw a news story, I believe it was from the Miami Herald, that pretty much praised everything, and now all of a sudden the hunter count goes up to 1,600. We started at 800, then we heard 1,500, now we're hearing 1,600. And I actually did post a comment to the news story on there, but then I noticed it was pending approval, and I don't think it's going to be approved because basically I was just asking them to stop exaggerating numbers. I mean, we're hearing a million different numbers from a million different sources, and nobody really knows what's really going on. Now let's get the hell out of Florida and go over to the Philippines, where an autopsy has been performed on Lolong. If you're unaware of who Lolong is, I have no idea where you've been, but he was the Guinness Book of World Records record holder for the world's largest captive crocodile until he passed away. Now veterinarians in the Philippines say that Lolong died of a mystery illness, which I don't know what kind of autopsy that is. Apparently they're still trying to dig into it to find out what exactly happened to Lolong and why he died. And I mean, I've heard a lot of different stories. One of the biggest ones that seems to be going around, of course it's very unsubstantiated, I guess, as far as substantiation goes, is that his care was not the best. I heard one story that the water he was kept in was not deep enough to create the proper buoyancy, and basically he crushed himself to death. I'm not a crocodile expert by no means. I'm not an anything expert. Something like that kind of sort of makes sense. I believe there was something I watched quite some time ago about a similarity with whales and buoyancy. But anyway, I mean, it kind of gives you something to think about, and I'm hoping soon we're going to hear some sort of official cause of death for the former world's largest captive crocodile. And now we're going to get into our top story of the day, something that just made me giggle but made me mad at the same time. In Middleborough's Kentucky, preacher apparently had his snakes confiscated when he went and spent a bunch of money to buy snakes to have in his sermons or whatever. You already know where this is going. He was traveling through Tennessee and he was pulled over and he was found with these snakes in his car, and the snakes were confiscated, and he wants the snakes back. He says that his religious rights are being infringed upon because he cannot worship God without these serpents. Whatever. But then at the same time, we learned that it is illegal to transport venomous snakes through the state of Tennessee. So, you know, I'm all for religious freedom, don't get me wrong. I don't follow everybody, but I'm all for the freedom to practice your religion the way you want to, regardless of how weird it sounds. But if you're knowingly traveling through a state with venomous snakes where it's against the law to travel through said state with venomous snakes, why should you not get them confiscated? Oh, and by the way, let's hit on that knowingly part. You see, apparently this pastor had been fined previously for attempting the same thing. So, you knew better, buddy. You see, while I am a very, very big believer on everybody's right to practice religious beliefs, I am also a very, very big believer on everybody's obligation to follow the law, regardless of said beliefs. The law is the law. And like I've always said, if you don't like the law, leave. And I know that's kind of a tough love thing to say, sort of, but I mean, we all, for the most part, know about the laws of what we're passionate in and what we do. If we don't, we should learn them very fast, but I just get so tired of hearing of laws being broken, and even though this doesn't directly reflect any sort of bad or good image on the reptile community, which is one of my main concerns, it still is reflective of somebody believing that their faith puts them above the law, which is just not right. Now, the snakes are currently being cared for at a local zoo, and the pastor is waiting to go on trial after failing to work out a plea deal. It's not known yet if the snakes will be returned. They may be returned or they may not. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Hey everybody, if you like the show, hit that like button please, and if you really like it, favorite it. And that, my friends, has been all your news for this Wednesday. If you'd like to read any more about these stories, that link's right down below here in the description. And as always, if you're still watching, my name is Jason White, and now you know what's going on in the reptile world. Don't travel through Tennessee with illegal snakes, and we'll see you next time.